Dissociative disorders. Table 6.1 on page 201 gives you the list of the main three that they talk about: dissociative identity disorder, dissociative amnesia, depersonalization or derealization disorder. Over to the right, under associated features, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth little bullet point down, it mentions the word dissociative fugue. It's a rare condition in which the person may travel to a new location and start a new life under a new identity. You might sometimes hear that listed separately, but technically they think of that as part of the dissociative amnesia. Also, if you hear the term multiple personality disorders, then know that that is an outdated term and you need to use the correct term, which is dissociative identity disorder. So 2 or more personalities in the same person. And I just said about the multiple personalities. So 2 or more personalities that may be aware of each other or may not. And each of these personalities is called an alter. It is controversial. People tend to wonder if it's really true, or is it a person just sort of faking. I think you could probably say that about a lot of disorders, but no doubt that some people definitely would have some of this. Often it would come about because of terrible traumas that have happened to you, and you in turn sort of split, or you've got to put away a part of yourself to protect it so that you don't think about that, so that that doesn't come into your awareness. So it stands to reason that some people might create a whole other part of themselves that only comes out if triggered by some extreme trauma. Page 204, table 6.2 gives some features, which I just said, but I mean, I said most of them. You can look through those to make sure you understand it. Examples in popular culture, there's some older movies, The Three Faces of Eve, Sybil. I'm not saying that any of those are especially good. They just exist, and you might check those out. And then there's a Lie to Me episode. It was a TV show that was on for a little while. I never really watched it, but some of my students told me about this one episode where this one actress, portrays somebody who has been abused in a way, and has 3 or 4 different alters. One of them is even male and does not speak. So I think it's a good example of what it might look like, especially in a laboratory setting. But since that is a copyrighted television show, I did not put a link to it, but I'm making you aware of it. Dissociative amnesia, where you're unable to recall important personal information. It's not just about forgetfulness. It's also usually related to traumatic events. It may last for days, weeks, years, and then you might just come back into awareness. The types of amnesia on page 206. It can be localized, selective, generalized, continuous, systematized. I don't know that it's overly important that you know each one of those, especially since dissociative amnesia isn't that common. Although, every now and then when somebody in the news has disappeared for a while, for a long time, and they can't find them, I wonder if that is one of these cases where someone just sort of forgets who they are because of some specific event, often related to childhood abuse, and just relocates and starts over, makes a break and starts over. Is it a disorder, or is it malingering? And malingering is just you're sort of putting on. So faking symptoms and making false claims. That's why it continues to be controversial. People aren't necessarily sure if this is really something that should exist. A fugue, as I mentioned a while ago, person may travel away from home or work, start a new life, be unaware of the past life, and then suddenly become unaware of the new life after they've moved back. Again, protecting from traumatic memories. Depersonalization, derealization disorder. A sense of watching your own reality change as if you're watching it in a dream, sort of like you're floating out, you're like a character outside of a movie scene that's shooting your life, and you're just sort of watching it in a displaced setting. You're not fully aware as it's happening to you. So real objects, people may change characteristics. Otherwise, you can be connected to reality. You know what's happening. You know, it just becomes something that you sort of check out. There's on page 213, you can read through this inventory of dissociative experiences to see if you have experienced anything like that. I had a client once who seemed very sure that he did, and I did believe the things he was telling me. He was just he just couldn't believe the things that were happening to him, and it was as if he was checking back and stepping away from them to get out of them. Dissociative treatment, understanding the diathesis stress model, that sometimes you are functioning and you just hit your limit and so much happens that you just cannot continue. Enough is enough. And that pressure causes you to, in a way, snap, and the snapping involves you just taking yourself out of the situation or becoming a different person to escape. So understanding that model is first part of treatment. Therapy to work through early childhood memories, and then cognitive behavioral therapy to help control the anxiety.